and welcome everyone to the first part of academic writing series for undergraduate students. This series is composed of 3 parts held in 3 weeks, that is on 3 Mondays. The first part is today with Dr. Fatahipur, who talks about the fundamentals of academic writing from Azad University in Iran. The session will last for 2 hours. After the first 45 minutes, we will have a short break for Dr. Fatahipur to answer questions if there are any. And if there are not any questions, we will continue the session. The attendance link is shared during the break. You will need to fill it out to receive the e-certificates. If you have any questions, please kindly write in the chat box. Okay, Dr. Fatahipur, I will give you the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Imani, for inviting me and holding this series of sessions on academic writing, which is focused on the undergraduate students, but it doesn't mean that postgraduate students cannot find anything useful in that, because there are several things that are, several elements of academic writing that are shared between, undergraduate or postgraduate student writing. But we use this title in order to actually focus on the fundamentals and not on the genres of academic writing, because the genres such as proposal writing or the genres such as writing a scientific article and so on, they are not the special focus of this. Let me put it another way. Actually, to do those things successfully, to write proposals successfully or a scientific article, you need to actually go back to the basics and to review the fundamentals as well. Okay? So someone had a question, and Dr. Imani is going to answer them. So I focus on my own presentation. Thank you, Dr. Imani, for adding people and for answering questions. And it doesn't exclude people. I mean, it's for anyone who is interested in academic writing, but let's say more focused on undergraduate students. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint here and begin my presentation. Okay. So here, actually, these are fundamental of effective writing. It's a glimpse into 7 chapters from Langham book. So this is the reference actually, and I am, as you know, as Dr. Imani has said, faculty member, permanent faculty member in English department head in branch of Islamic University, and also I got my PhD in 2012 from UWE Bristol, UK, and my PhD was also related to academic writing in some way. So let's begin with the 4 basic principles of effective writing, because we can have academic writing, we can have writing, but we'd like to focus on effective writing, because we have successful writing, we have effective writing. These terms usually overlap, but I think the best term we can use is effective writing, because the writing is supposed to have an effect on the audience, right? And a positive effect, or an interactive effect, or some social effect, some kind of useful effect on the audience. It could be informative even. I mean, give them just information, or persuade them to do something, or describe something very vividly and give them pleasure by, being able to share that experience, and so on and so forth. So all of them, this principle of effectiveness, I think is evident. How can we make a writing effective? Well, there are some general guidelines. that we need to put into action. First of all, we should start with a clearly stated point. Everyone in the basics of paragraph writing has come across with a similar point, that we need to have a main point, we need to have a topic sentence, and so on. But the topic sentence is there for a reason. It should give us a clearly stated point. It means that we should be clear for ourselves, and then we can be clear for the audience. I mean, as a writer, if you're not clear with your own writing, how can you expect this clarity to become a reality with the audience? Okay, so I think there might be very useful points you can say, but you have to focus. I mean, academic writer, you have to, as an academic writer, one has to focus on one clearly stated point at a time, or in a paragraph. Okay, so then an academic writing can provide logical, detailed support for that point. Okay, when the first point is done, I mean, we just have one point, one clear point to bring forward, then we can give support by some details. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of details or examples that support that point. Okay, so this is the backbone, the structure of the paragraph you're writing in as an academic writer. Maybe if you're not writing as an academic writer, you can be, let's say, free, I mean, in your structure. But this is, as you know, the basics of academic writing. And when we have those 2 points, starting with clearly stated point and providing logical detailed support, when we have those 2 points in place, then and only then we can organize and connect supporting material. Because organization cannot come when there is no material, right? When there is no topic sentence and when there is no material that supports that topic sentence. So here we go back again in a recursive manner, you know, not in a linear manner. Okay, in a recursive manner, we go back to our paragraph, we go back to our essay to organize or reorganize and connect those supporting material. And finally, even if our writing is very good, even if we are satisfied with our writing, even if we, like many writers, even if we fall in love with our writing, it doesn't mean that it doesn't need revision. It needs revision, it needs editing. Any writing needs revision, any writing needs editing. You know, as a writer, we should always think this way. We should always think that without a revision or without editing, our work is incomplete at best. Because when you revise something, then you come across, again, in a recursive manner, I told you, not in a linear manner, in a recursive manner, when we go back to our writing, we come across new ideas, we come across new ways of organizing, we come across some mistakes, and so on. Those mechanics of writing or something related to the form of writing, we can say they are related to editing. Okay, editing stage. And those related to organization and connecting usually are called revisions or revising the articles or reorganizing. But these terms are sometimes used interchangeably into the what is that? To the organization. So this revision and editing makes sentences effective, okay, and makes them free of errors. Okay, so we may have errors. We are allowed to have errors until we come to the revision and editing stage. Put it another way, before editing a stage, before revising a stage, it's okay to have some errors because uh, you're doing it step by step, and one step at a time. Okay. Okay. So the second thing about the point of support, you should say that any idea that you advance must be supported with specific reasons or details. So I think any idea comes back to the topic sentence. Okay, idea comes back to the uh, topic sentence. Okay, the topic sentence is the idea you are attempting to actually bring forward or actually make it happen. Okay, so it should be supported with specific reasons or details. So we have one point, we have a few supports. Uh, this is the structure. We cannot have many points and many supports. We cannot have many points and one support. The only structure which is actually agreed upon in academic writing is that you have at least per paragraph, you have one point and more than one support, two support, three support, four support. So this is the basic structure to put it simply. Okay, now the question comes, well, if we cannot support our idea or something does not come to our mind, how can we think about it? There are a few questions, such as what kind, how many, what did it look like, how did it smell, how did it taste, or sound like. These kind of questions help us to think and rethink about our idea and about our supports. Okay, so uh, in a paragraph, I give you just an example here. A paragraph usually considers a topic sentence. For example, if you consider this as a topic sentence, although I love the movies, I've found that there are drawbacks to movie going. This is one idea which has a focus, right? And okay, so I told you about the specific reasons and details and how we can generate them. This is a question that many students ask and say how we can generate um, the specific reasons or details for our paragraphs when it just happens that it doesn't come to our mind. Okay. Then we have this example as a topic sentence. And then we have, before going to the next slide, can I ask the audience to write some reasons or details for this? Just you can type it in the chat box, okay? Write some details, okay? And then I will give you the answer in the next slide, okay? Of course, my answer is not the only acceptable answer. This is just one acceptable answer, okay? So you can actually feel free to provide supporting details for such a topic sentence, which is just made for you as an example, okay? So if we have this as a topic sentence, in other words, how would you add details and what kind of details, what kind of support you would add? Please write one detail Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We have 26 audience here. Anyone just in the chat box, not direct message. Dr. Imani, can you just manage this? I mean, if someone provided, I mean, you don't have to, but it gives you more experience. Even if you think this might not be right, just do your best. I mean, okay, yeah. Continuing the sentence, Sami. Continuing the sentence, and not this sentence because this sentence is complete. You see, we need support for this sentence. We need detailed support or reasons for this.
Okay, Dr. Fatehpur, so I will just actually clarify this point, if I'm not mistaken. You are
Yes,
asking our audience to support the
yes,
sentence that you have written. Although I love the movies, I have found that there are drawbacks to movie going. So you want them to write one sentence to support your sentence. Am I right?
yes. That's it.
Okay. So
I
please,
can.
everyone, help write a few
Yes,
sentences in the chat box.
that's right. I can give you one example now. This can be one example of supporting sentence. You can have your own example of supporting sentence, but you can, I mean, this one can give you an idea how a supporting sentence looks like. It can be an example. Okay, this is an example of a recent visit that this person, the writer, had. For example, throwing popcorn, ice cubes, and the seats were torn. For example, the last time I went to cinema in cinemas, all the seats were torn. Yes, I remember that. And floors were sticky with spilled soda. And you can add more, like people are noisy or talking to each other about it. So this can be fictional. It need not be real life. You can imagine what kind of nuisance, what kind of problem this movie going might have, just to support your idea.
Okay,
Okay.
Dr. Fatehpur, here we have an answer from Samin. It takes time to go to the cinema and making traffic jam in some streets.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, very good. Very good. Um, about the traffic jams, you know the process of going to the movies. While when you're home, staying at home, then yeah, this can be one thing. Yeah, very good. From another point of view, so you can have your own point of view, and further the discussion, further the paragraph, or support the topic sentence in your own way. Okay. Um, For example, I was talking with a boss about the distance work, telework, and I said we can learn from the the period that we were home and the coronavirus, and we did a lot of telework effectively, a lot of distance work effectively. Why not continue this at least half of the days of the week? Why not? I mean, when we can do it effectively, why not? And it reduces the traffic, as you said, Sam. It reduces because traffic is even worse here than before coronavirus. And air pollution can kill, like uh, not less than coronavirus. So, I mean, you can further this point in some way and maybe steer a little bit away, and then you have a stage later on about the reorganizing and editing and revising, and that you can pick your points. You can choose to focus more on one issue. But at this stage, let your mind wander. Let your mind wander to find the supporting ideas. Okay, because any one idea that supports can finally be very effective, can finally get very useful, I mean, in the paragraph. Okay, so can you see my point, everyone?
Yes,
If you can.
actually, we can. And then we have two more answers. I'm going to read them for you. So Ms. Mandana says, last time when I went to the cinema, it took 1 hour. And Mr. Samin, I suppose, he said some people come to the cinema with their little children who make noise. It distracts you from the contents of the movie. And Mr. Izzatullah, he says, for instance, there was a long delay for the movie to be initiated and the theater was so noisy.
Yes, very good.
That's all.
Yeah, thank you very much for your beautiful imagination. And that imagination helps a writer at this stage. This stage, as I said, it's the stage you let your mind wander. There is no right and wrong. The only criteria is that you can support a point, a topic sentence in some way. Okay? So going back to the topic sentence, you can see that you, in your own way, you have supported your topic sentence. It can be an example. It can be a statistical number. For example, 50% of the people who go to cinema found out that they didn't like the experience, and 50% they actually liked the experience. If there is a statistics, because we cannot invent the statistics from ourselves. There should be a reference for the statistics. But about your own idea, your reference is yourself, and you can talk about your own idea without giving numbers. Just to tell that something that happened to you as an example, or your point of view, or your argument for or against it. In this case, for it, and maybe more. Maybe just imagine a scenario and write about it. So it can be any of those things. Thank you very much. So we can move on and see that the common purpose of writing is important. For example, in the examples I have given you, it was not to inform, was it? Was it to persuade someone, or was it to entertain someone? Because there are three common purposes of writing. In the example that I gave you about cinema going, did this paragraph, okay? This is not my own belief. This is just an example, okay? As an example of a paragraph, do you think this was to inform you, or to persuade you, or to entertain you? You can write in the chat box, inform, to persuade, or to entertain. And you can see that any form of writing, academic writing, should fulfill at least one of those purposes, okay? At least one of those purposes. Sometimes it's both to inform and persuade, sometimes it's both to persuade and entertain, but at least one of them, okay? Thank you. So I ask you to write in the chat box, if you can, what is your idea about the example I have given you? Whether it was to inform, persuade, or entertain.
Excuse me, Dr. Fateh, is it possible you show the example again? Because some of our audience just joined us. So if it is possible, yes, this example. Although I love the movies, I have found that there are drawbacks to movie going. Now, can you please show the three purposes?
Sure. Three purposes, yeah. This is one example.
Okay. Yes.
Three purposes.
So please, everybody, write in the chat box, what was the purpose of that sentence to you? Okay, everybody says so far it is to inform.
Oh, okay.
Inform,
So far,
yes, everybody says inform. Does anyone have other? No.
Thank you for your feedback, but I'd rather go with the persuade myself because it's not giving new information about the process of cinematography, or I don't know how to watch a film. It doesn't give you more information about cinema. It only tries to further, tries to actually persuade you not to go to cinema because of some drawbacks, you know. So it's more of a persuasion, and I don't think it's any entertaining thing about it. Maybe in the example I gave you, there are some entertaining elements. Okay, for example, throwing packed popcorn. So it's very graphic, isn't it? It's quite graphic. It means that you can imagine the teenagers, even if you haven't seen them at all, even if you haven't seen such a scene, such a teenager in cinema before, you can still imagine how noisy they can get, okay, if they want to get. I mean, if they get out of control, teenagers can get very noisy. They can throw popcorn or ice cubes, and you know, they spill soda and so on. I mean, this example has somehow entertained me and also persuaded me, but it didn't give me much information. I mean, much new information about the cinema itself, you know. So, yeah, but you're right in some respect, because a good paragraph can have a mix of those purposes, not just one purpose. As I said, it can have a mixture of those purposes. Okay, thank you for participation. If there is no more new answer or any point of view, I go to the next step, which is evaluating your audience, which is important. You know, it's important to know what does your audience already know about the subject, because if the audience knows about the cinema and how to go to cinema, you don't need to explain to them, right? If the audience is from a rural place, perhaps you need to probably just explain a little bit about that thing. I mean, by saying rural, I don't mean any offense. They have so much natural beauties that we are deprived of. And we cannot, as people in the city, cannot appreciate, perhaps, or cannot access. So, I mean, any audience in the world, any audience wherever they live, they might have some familiarity, some degree of familiarity with what we are going to write about, okay? And we have to assess that. We have to kind of evaluate that and then build on that, okay? Without repeating them, without repeating what they already know, we have to build on what they already know. So this is new information added to old information, according to the discourse analysts. Yes, Dr. Imani, the discourse analyst, he is in a good position to tell us about that. And okay, another question for evaluating your audience is why might the reader need or want this material? Because we have to see whether our readership, whether they like it or whether they need it in some way. The need for entertainment is also one type of need, okay? So it can be counted, I mean, the need for entertainment. But when it comes to persuasion or informing, we need to be more focused about that, more careful. For example, if I tell someone about this topic in today's Iran, it might not be something that the reader needs because it's just after the coronavirus and everything is opening up and the businesses are opening up and many people are vaccinated, and we don't really want to undermine the business of cinema, you know. So it might not be timely to write about this topic at this point of time. Okay, do you agree with that? But if it was when it was, if you have a purpose, for example, as Samin said about traffic, reducing traffic, or some other reasons, we might want to talk about it because our readership, you know, would pay attention, right, or would need it. So, did you get what I mean? I mean, was it clear? Can I, could I, let's say, could I explain well about this or not? Okay. And if it's clear, we can move to two more points. We have two more points for evaluating our audience. It's like a reflection. It's like a thinking about our audience. The audience, what type of language the audience is familiar with, or we can use with this audience. For example, academic writing is usually formal, right? But the level of formality can somehow vary, okay? The level of formality can vary, depending on the audience. If it's like undergraduate students or a lively group of, let's say, student club, then you might want to write a little bit with the lower end of formality. And if you want to, I don't know, address a group of lawyers, then you have to address this with a higher end of formality. So, about your purpose, whether it's just to inform or convince. Okay, I think for convincing someone, you need to replicate their own language more. I mean, you need to be more sensitive to their language. Otherwise, they would not get convinced. You understand? For information, for giving information or informing, well, it's a little bit different. If you're more formal, people can check. People can, I don't know, check dictionary or inform themselves. But for convincing, you need to somehow approach to a kind of everyday language more than before. That's why some politicians, some businessmen are very successful in convincing people, because they, not because of their great ideas, maybe they have even bad ideas, no? Sometimes good ideas, bad ideas. But those who are successful are those that approximate to the level of formality that the audience needs, so they can convince better. Okay, so that's about it. Now, if you have any questions up to now, you can raise your hand before we move on to the next chapter or next slide. We can answer. We can take a couple of questions if you have any up to now.
Okay, Dr. Fatah, first of all, I want to thank you. And then I would like to explain that why actually you turned off your camera, your webcam, because of the internet actually connection. And then I have a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Okay, so you actually, it was very, very interesting when you talked about the persuasion of academic writing. But then I would like to see, do you think that academic writing can be like a businessman trying to sell a product? So academic writing, can we say, is like trying to sell the idea?
Yes. Yes, you're right. It's like selling your idea, and even more, because there is an aspect of humanity in it. Maybe in pure business, unfortunately today, the pure business sometimes forgets the aspect of humanity and only tries to sell their product at any cost. And consumerism that has risen in the world in the past decades. The rate of consumerism has been doubled, tripled, quadrupled because of those things. So in academic writing, we need one more element, which is a humane or academic or scientific or let's say fairness element.
Yeah,
Okay?
you're right, because academic writing is basically for the good of the mankind. Now you're trying to sell your ideas for the good of the mankind. Okay, that was a very,
Yes.
very nice explanation. Thank you so much. Here, Ms. Nadia actually asked, is it like selling your imagination? Can we get such an interpretation from academic writing, selling imagination?
Yes, that's a beautiful description because you know although we know that ideas are rooted in other people's ideas, we can also add something from our own imagination and sell our imagination. So at the same time, we are building on other people's ideas and also sell our imagination means adding one, however minuscule, however very, very little contribution to the already known knowledge about an issue. So it's in that sense, it's a selling of our imagination. It's not all our imagination, but part of the academic writing is selling our imagination. Yeah, that's very good.
Okay, and we have one more question here from Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad says, regarding the type of language to use, do we have to use bombastic words in our writing or words
Uh-huh.
that are easier for the audience to understand?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. You don't need to be sounding very learned or sounding very. I mean, no one can uh, see the intention, but from the words they may guess your intention. I mean, or maybe they misjudge you. They misjudge you if you use bombastic or very, very difficult words. They may misjudge you as someone who wants to, you know, to show their pride or whatever. Um, so we don't need to use very difficult language. Uh, so for formal language is very different from difficult language because formality is there for a purpose, is to use an already agreed upon level of let's say words or terminology in one nature. Okay, some terminologies are used, for example, by lawyers. Okay, they are there for a purpose. They are not just for the lawyers to tell us that they are better than ourselves, better than others. The lawyers have to use this. The lawyers have to use their jargon, because otherwise there will be misunderstanding. Otherwise there will be a lot of problem in the legal issues. Okay, so they do not use formal language just to show off. So it depends on you. You have to ask yourself whether I'm showing off, or is it too much? You ask yourself, and if the answer is yes, then you can tone down. You can tone down your language to a lower level of formality, and of course everyone. I mean, when I say you, it's impersonal. It means me, you, and everyone who is an academic writer. Okay, and you can then approach the audience at their own level. Okay, so they would not get frustrated or whatever negative feeling about that. So you can relate with them. And yes, you said bombastic about the bombastic. Yeah, very good question. And at the same time, I mean, let's say on the other hand, can I say yes? On the other hand, you don't need to you don't need to make informal language just for the sake of showing that you are very relevant, very friendly, and so on. Because ultimately it's the idea that matters. Okay, not showing that you are bright, not showing that you are very friendly. So not too much informality, not too much formality. Anything that is contrived, it means not realistic. Anything that is not realistic or contrived can backlash. Backlash can somehow have a negative reaction from the audience. So staying on the middle and finding the middle is important, because middle is not just always in the middle. Middle is not always at the 50% formality, 50% informality. No, middle is not there. Middle for different audiences are a little bit different. So you should. I mean, it's your responsibility as a academic writer. It's my responsibility as an academic writer to find that middle ground. Okay, to find that middle ground where it stays. I mean, where my audience can understand, get amused, and somehow encouraged to act. Okay, to act upon that. I mean, give them some clue for a change in behavior. Okay, because one type of one definition for learning is a behavioral change. A very old one, of course. A very old definition of learning is the change in behavior. So anything that can fulfill that reason would be the middle ground, not just the middle point. Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Any more questions, by the way?
Actually, we have one more question from Mr. Samin, asking, would you explain more about the formality level of the papers? I think actually you covered that. But Dr. Fateh, is it okay if I actually say something here?
Sure.
Of course, we have different levels of academic writing. We have when an undergraduate student writes an essay, right? For the class assignment, it is considered academic writing, but then a very, very good article for a very top journal is also an example of academic writing. And I totally agree with you, because academic writing is not usually very, very difficult to understand. If we look at the top journals, they are usually very, very easy to understand, apart from the technical words that they have to use, because they cannot do without them. But then I totally agree with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, yeah. So you can see slide 7 now. We are going to move to the next discussion if everyone is ready. We go to the next discussion, which is just a list of topics we are going to talk about, okay, in this section. And the example exercises for each of them will come in the next slide. So we're going to talk about the pre-writing techniques. First of all, we have to, you know, make such a difficult thing into easy, small steps. These are called pre-writing. Pre-writing means whatever you do before actual writing. Okay, whatever you do before your actual writing. For example, free writing, it means without any structure at first, only at first. And then questioning, means just asking yourself questions. I gave you a few examples, but I will give more later. And making a list, like for example, you know, when you go to a shopping list, you make a list. Now, when you're writing, you should have also a kind of list to focus on that on a list, and do not let your mind wander too much. Okay, too much. And then clustering. You know, you see that through the stages, one step at a time, we are approaching a kind of structure. You know, at first it's without a structure, it's free writing. Then there is questioning. And so you find the answers to those questions, and then you make a list without writing a sentence. Then you cluster those lists, means group them. Clustering is grouping those lists. For example, these 3 elements go to one group, those 4 other elements go to another group. Okay, so this is called clustering. And then finally, finally preparing a topic sentence and a scratch outline. Scratch outline means just a beginner outline, okay? Because the outline can be improved through the process of writing, through the process. So these are pre-writing techniques we can use. And when we use them, I promise that any writing using those techniques, or any writer using those techniques, can achieve a more effective writing in the end. Because they're step by step, because they're small and achievable. Now, let's go to the first one and give an example for that one. Pre-writing is, for example, when you write non-stop for 10 minutes, okay? You put your pen down on paper and jot down in rough sentences. Maybe they are grammatically wrong, but doesn't matter at this stage. Or you put any phrase, everything that comes to your mind about a possible topic. And when we say non-stop, that non-stop is important for this stage, because you don't have to judge yourself at this stage. At this stage, you should have a free hand and feel free to write. For example, this student has written this paragraph. There are lots of things I get annoyed by. One of them is politicians. In fact, I'm so annoyed by them, the last thing I want is to try to write about them. Another thing that bothers me is noisy people at the movies. I used to love the movies, and so on and so forth. So you can see there is no structure, but it's at least good, because at least good because somehow he has written 4 sentences that, or she has written 4 sentences that she can build on later. Okay. So this is called free writing, and I gave you an example. You can try for yourself at home, or if you have time now, I mean any possible topic, but we don't have 10 minutes maybe. I mean, it might be a little bit boring for some people. So for 2 minutes, is that good? I mean, for 2 minutes you can do that. But let me explain everything about the pre-writing stages, if you agree. If you agree, I explain everything about the pre-writing stages, and then I give you 5 minutes to write on your own topic. Okay, is that fine? Because then we don't have a lot of stops and starts. And I have given you one full example. Okay, so I mean, after that you will see the full example and you can write your own in this webinar. Maybe you have done this before, or you have other examples, but in this webinar, I mean. So do not worry in free writing. Do not worry yet. The yet is important. Do not worry yet about spelling or punctuation. For example, here you can see politicians is spelled wrong, but it doesn't matter at this stage because you have to write freely. So you don't get picky with spelling and just write the ideas on the page. And questioning. How can you question to generate more ideas, generate more support? I always say to my students that WH questions are an asset. WH questions can help a lot because they can give you multiple perspectives. This is something that we need in our writing and also need in our world. I mean, most of the world problems is that people do not have multiple perspectives. So here you give yourself a multiple perspective by asking different questions, such as why, when, where, who, and how. Sometimes one of them, 2 of them doesn't apply. It doesn't matter. At least 3 of them would apply to your own topic. Okay? At least 3 of them, 4 of them, sometimes 5 of them, all of them would apply to your topic. But for any topic, at least 3 of them would apply. You can try. And then after answering those questions, you have something solid on paper, okay, which you need to map, you need to diagram, you need to write, for example, the subject at the center of the blank page, and actually draw a diagram of those ideas around it, and the details. You can add the details wherever there is a blank in the page. Okay, I give you one example of how it works. It's much better than writing in a paragraph at this stage, because paragraph actually limits your space for writing. But here, if you have a paper, you see you have a space to fill in. You can simply draw a line from the center, which is the topic center, the sentence, or topic itself. Yeah, the topic itself. And then add one idea. And you can cluster them later. You can put them in clusters, like groups. By cluster, we mean group of ideas. For example, in this clustering that I show you, you can see this all in yellow and blue. Dr. Imani, is it showing up very well or not?
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, very good. You can see that the writer has attempted to cluster the ideas. For example, the movies about the traffic getting to theater that Samin also said, or too many people in the theater, or the line, Saf, no? The line at the box office where you buy the ticket. These are the drawbacks, the problems, the disadvantages about movie going. They are all about one thing, process of getting to the theater itself, okay, to the hall, process of getting, whether it's traffic or too many people uh, jammed outside or in the line. And another one which might be a little bit tricky, you can see a friend which you don't want to see anymore. So that would be, it gives you close encounter with people. I mean, this is just imagination. You may not agree with that. Or other temptations about healthy food. Yeah. Uh, Usually in the movies, healthy food is not served. It's only popcorn and chocolate bars and Kofak and other, in Iran. I use the great name. So some other names in Malaysia, I don't know what kind of, is it popcorn or chocolate bars? I don't know. But I mean, these types of things that are sold and that are brought to the movie theater. So these are just called temptation. You can add more. You can add a few more of that. So if you want to, if you're an old person, then you definitely want to avoid them. If you're a young person, you don't want to grow an unhealthy habits, which dies hard, because habits die hard. When you go to one habit, uh, going to one habit is one problem. Getting out of that habit is another problem. So, or noisy people, as this person has, the example I've shown you. So more focused on noisy people, teenagers showing off or yelling, or some adults coughing and sneezing and telling plots, or telling plot means telling you about the movie before it's finished. So they somehow uh, let the cat out of the bag, so you would not enjoy as much. While when you watch at home, then uh, you can watch at your own pace, at your own safety, at your own privacy, and so on. Well, with this kind of clustering, you can see that anyone can get convinced not to go to the cinema. Okay, this is just an example. I'm just telling you, I'm not against cinema. Okay, don't get me wrong. Especially in this time of, in this special time after coronavirus, I think they need some kind of support. But just to give you an example, any idea in writing, if given the right attention and the steps that I'm telling you, can turn into a very entertaining and very convincing paragraph. Okay, so going back to this one, you can see that all those things were mentioned using lines and boxes and arrows and circles. Depends on your own taste. You can use lines, boxes, arrows, circles to show the relationship among the ideas and details. So it's like a poster. Now that you have clustered, you have grouped your ideas, what is the next step? The next step, before actual writing, still before actual writing, is to summarize. Because it's too much to write about all the clusters that you have written. Okay, expect that. Always expect that your clustering is more than necessary. It doesn't matter. Make it more than necessary, but don't use all of that in your paragraph. Don't try to use all of that, because your paragraph, your essay will be very long, and perhaps boring. So you, at this stage, you summarize, you condense either someone else's work, put in your own words, or identify and give credit to original sources and authors. These are called summarizing or summarize your own cluster, which are not written here. So giving someone else credit means, for example, you search in the internet and in the valid websites, okay, and see whether someone else has written about movies, okay, and you give them credit, you give them reference. For example, someone else has said this about movies. Charlie Chaplin has also said this about movies, or another, I don't know, Asghar Farhadi said something about movies, or I don't know, and any personality you think they would give an idea, which is important about the movie. So you give them credit, you give them reference, and condense their ideas. You don't need to give the full paragraph of that person. I mean, you don't need to cite the full paragraph. You just condense their idea and relate it to your own clustering, relate it to your own topic in your writing. Okay, so this is the stage I always emphasize, because a writing should not always be our own idea. Other people's ideas should be mixed with our ideas and should be clearly marked whether this is our idea, which do not have a reference, or other people's ideas, which includes a reference, a proper reference. You know, APA is a reference, or MLA, or other reference guides. You have to follow one of them, okay? And anyone in the world follows one of them. So it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not a problem to use other people's idea, provided that you give them reference. It actually enriches your idea. This is where I emphasize that the reading should enrich your writing. The reading should enrich writing. The writing should not be totally your own. We should also stand on the shoulders of giants. Yeah, we should also give other people's credit who, have written on these ideas, and see what happened before. Because any topic, I promise you, any topic that you think of has been thought about before, has been written about before, and you can definitely find an author who has written something about that topic before. Okay, it should not kill your imagination. At the same time, it should not kill your exploration, right? At the same time, you have to, when you're exploring their ideas, you should also write about your own imagination or your own point. So here you can see reading and writing are closely intermingled. Now, after all this, we come to the point that we want to actually write or put down our pen on paper or our fingers on keyboard. Okay, which is preparing the topic sentence and a scratching outline, which is first of all begins with a definition of topic sentence. Everyone knows that topic sentence is a point you want to make about the subject of a paragraph. So it's not only a subject, it's also a point that you want to make about that subject. So you do not just say, introduce a subject. For example, I want to talk about the last summer. This is not a topic sentence. You have to say, for example, the last summer was the most beautiful summer that I had in my own life because of blah, blah, blah. So this can be a subject and a point, a personal point about it. Together, they make a topic sentence. So for writing a topic sentence, you think carefully about the point you're making, the supporting items to that point, and the order in which you arrange those items. These three things are very important: the point, the supporting, and the order. And writing a first draft is the first time you write a paragraph after all these stages, which is not very time consuming. Yeah, trust me, they're not very time consuming, but they can give you a lot of confidence to write your first draft and give you a lot of structure, a lot of good ideas. So you state your main idea clearly in the first draft and develop the content of paragraph with the plenty of specific details that you have garnered, you have gathered. Yes, you have gathered a lot of specific details from clustering and from other stages. And finally, when you have written the first draft, maybe there is a second draft or a third draft, whatever. All of them after the first draft, all of them fit into the revision process. It means that you set your draft aside, for example, and you put it aside. You put it aside for a while. So your mind processes automatically while you have put your draft aside. Or you work from type or printed text and read your draft aloud, depending on your own taste. You can do any of those. You can add your own thoughts and changes about the lines and margins of your paragraph. You can do any of those or all of those in the revision process so that you can refresh your writing. You can refresh your organization of writing. Any writing with this stage of revision can get much acute, much more effective, okay, and much more successful. About the content of revising, what do you want to revise in your paragraph? First of all, you check whether it is a unified paragraph. Unified means all of the parts, all parts of in the paragraph are talking about one thing and not talking about two different things or three different things. So they're all talking about the topic sentence or supporting the topic sentence. The second point is that whether it is well supported or mildly supported or not well supported. Whether your supports are artificial or your supports are quite real, realistic, and logical. The supports should be logical. They can be imaginative, but at the same time, they should not be illogical. For example, if you give support which is not really supporting, then that is not a support anyway. So you just check that, okay? And everyone should check their paragraph for unity and support. And finally, for organization, whether the sentences are in the right place. For example, the beginning sentences should be about an introduction. The final sentences should give us a sense of ultimate, ultimate conclusion or whatever. The middle sentences should give us a sense of flow. The paragraph flows from one point to another, and the points are organized, and the points come naturally after one another, and they are not haphazard, okay? They are not accidental. So these things about the revising content. And about the form. When I say content, I mean the meaning, okay? The meaning of the paragraph. When I say editing about the errors, I mean focusing on the form of the paragraph. About the form of the paragraph after meaning. Many people, including myself, sometimes are tempted to check the errors without checking the meaning first, because it's natural, because they come to our view sooner. Okay, they are easier to check. That's why I put it second to meaning. First of all, you check the meaning, unity, support, and organization. Then you go to grammar, punctuation, usage, and spelling. You know why? If you can stem this temptation, it would give you credit. It would save your time because maybe you want to remove a sentence altogether. So why correct the grammar and then remove it? First of all, remove it, and there is no need to correct the grammar. I don't mean you have to remove any sentence which has a grammatical error. No, I mean sometimes you have to make changes in this stage, and those changes later saves you time in this stage. I mean the editing stage. Okay. Because they are not needed anymore. Okay, so checking grammar, punctuation, and spelling, most of that work can be given to computer. Okay, but in the previous stage, I'm just shuffling between the slides. Is that okay with you? I mean, the previous stage, which is revising content and meaning. Okay. Dr. Imani, can you see the revising content, let's say, slide now?
Yes, actually we can.
Okay, that's good. Because I sometimes worry whether the shuffling between them is too...
No. Your slides are very clear, and your sound is very clear too.
Okay, thank you very much. So I just want to put it another way, okay, that unity, organization, support take precedence, or let's say, or emphasize more, or take precedence means come first, okay, for a paragraph. And then we go to, and they cannot be done with a machine. More importantly, you cannot use computer help in this stage. But you can use computer help, a lot of computer help, in the editing stage. For example, as soon as you type your writing in the Word program, everyone has that one, you can turn on the grammar and spelling check, and they can show you the grammar and spelling. And there are other websites who can, such as Paper Rater, I don't know, Paper Checker, some other websites you can search in Google, in internet. I use Ecosia as my search engine, and it works best. And you can use, Ecosia, or Google, whatever. These grammar checker, punctuation checker, or whatever, spell checker, Paper Rater. You can check them and use them as a kind of additional computer help. But for most people, the Word is enough. For most people, the Word is enough. They can show you any grammatical spelling mistake, and you can then easily correct them. Now, if you have any questions before going to the next stage, which are different steps of writing, actual writing. Here, I want you to compare two essays about family life written by two different students. In the source book, there are two essays about family life in page 52 and 53, which are about the, two students. Two students have written that. So in different steps, 1, 2 steps. Okay, here we can have more steps, but actually to make it simpler, just focus on two steps. Two steps of writing paragraph. You begin with a point in step 1. The first sentence of your paragraph is your topic sentence, and the topic sentence informs the reader of the point you want to make. And in step 2, you support the point with specific evidence and reasons followed by examples and details. And the reader should be able to see and understand the point for herself or himself. Okay, so if you can clearly delineate these two steps, then I think it's much better than just writing linear as at one shot, you know. I mean, it gives you a better, effective, and let's say controllable process of writing, academic writing. Okay, if you don't have any questions, maybe we put the questions at the end. If you don't have any, we go to the common errors in topic sentences. Some of the errors we make in topic sentences. Some topic sentences are like an announcement rather than a statement. I've told you before that, for example, I want to talk about the summer, or I want to talk about the crime wave in our country. This is not a topic sentence because you did not express any point, I would say to this student, okay? You did not express a point, you did not express an idea or any opinion about the subject. So this is not a good topic sentence because it doesn't have any focus and it doesn't express any point. How can we make it better? You can suggest. But I prefer to show you more slides now. Two parts of the topic sentence. First of all, are a limited topic and attitude. So when we say point, to make it simpler, I can say we should limit the topic, but that's not enough. That's not enough to limit the topic from general to a specific. We have to add an attitude towards the limited topic. Attitude means point, means idea, means the opinion we talked about. Okay? So here you can see a very good topic sentence, a very good one. A honeymoon is perhaps the worst way to begin a marriage. Okay, it should be very entertaining to read about that too, because you know it doesn't talk about all the marriage because it's too much. Okay, marriage is very complex. It only chooses to talk about honeymoon. Okay, so it's specific, it's limited, isn't it? It's a limited topic. And it has an attitude, has an opinion on that. Almost everyone believes that honeymoon is the best stage in marriage, or it's a very sweet stage and so on. But this writer is going to surprise us, to give us new information, or to convince us that a honeymoon is perhaps the worst way to begin a marriage. And I assume even by now you are actually already thinking about the supporting details, such a topic sentence can have. If you were going to put some supporting details, what would you add? Okay, I think it's like a motor. It actually activates my mind to think about other reasons, to approach it from another perspective. Yes, honeymoon is sweet, but sometimes the couple who are married, I don't know, indulge too much in the, everything is prepared in honeymoon. For example, they are in a hotel and so on. So they do not encounter any problems, and they do not learn how to solve their problems because there is no problem in honeymoon. And probably at the beginning, I mean, the writer perhaps wants to tell us that we have to come across the problems in marriage in a realistic manner, not always in a contrived manner, or in the best scenario. In the best scenario, everything is okay and everybody is okay with the best scenario. But when there is a problem, so I can really talk about that. I mean, I'm sure you can also imagine about the kind of details this writer is going to tell us. And why? Why? Because it's a very intelligent, very smart topic sentence. Why? Because it has a limited topic and an attitude. That's it. Everyone can write a topic sentence which is smart. Okay, the only condition is that you limit the topic and give an attitude towards the limited topic. That's all. It's as simple as that, but many people do not pay attention to this simplicity and only do it partially. That's why the writing gets boring. So you organize and connect a specific evidence. Okay, these are the things we do connect supporting material by using. How we organize and connect? You may ask, how can we organize? Organization is very difficult for me. How can I do this one? Well, there are common methods of organization you can search about, you can learn about, you can practice, and practice makes perfect. And two other things which is simpler, two other things which are simpler. Transitions, using transitions. For example, however, you can use those words. However, or additionally, therefore, you use these words whenever necessary. These are transitions. It signals the reader that one reason is finished and another reason is compared or contrasted with the previous sentence. Okay, so use transitions. Or even if you don't use transitions, you can use other connecting words. Those connecting words serve very well, serve the writer very well, because it gives the writer a change of state. I mean, it makes the audience understand that something is changing in the writing, right? So what about the other common methods of organization? There is a common method which is called chronological order, and another one which is emphatic order. Chronological order means time order. Okay, chronological means chrono means time, and logical means just time logical, or logical in terms of time. For example, if something happens first, it should come first in your writing. If something happens next, it should come next in your writing, and so on and so forth. So you can signal this in your writing by using those words. First of all, next, then, after that, and so on. Finally, so you can use those words. First of all, secondly, thirdly. You can tell me more. These words tell you and organize your paragraph in an effective manner and gives a time order. So you should follow a simple plan consisting of arranging the time and making preparations and warming up. So you can warm up the audience. But there is another way of ordering. Sometimes you cannot do it according to time because the topic does not lend itself very well to the time order. The topic is different, and it's not about a timely process. Okay, it's not about the process at all. You can use another order, which is called emphatic order. For example, you're talking about a logical thing. Okay, the thesis sentence or the topic sentence is that there are several reasons why the National Enquirer is so popular. Okay, there are several reasons. So these reasons cannot be put in time order, but they can be put in an emphatic order, or emphasis is placed on the most important detail by positioning it near the end of the paragraph. Why near the end of the paragraph? Why? Why do you think that in emphatic order you'd better put the emphasis near the end of the paragraph, not at the beginning of the paragraph? Why not at the beginning? There is a reason for that, huh? You can think about it and write it for me in the chat box. Here in this example, you can see that the last detail which is a supporting point, which is the most important point, came last by saying that most of all, people read the Inquirer because they love gossip. Okay. What is the National Enquirer? From the capitalization and from the context, we can understand that this is perhaps a newspaper, okay, a local newspaper who publishes stories, even gossip, okay, stories about people, gossip about, I don't know, celebrities and so on. So why people like this? There are several reasons. The last one is people because they love gossip. Okay, many people love gossip.
Dr. Fatraipur, I would like to thank you. While actually you give them time to think about your question, then since we have new, actually new people have joined us, I would like to say that this is academic writing for undergraduate students, and this is the first part. There will be 2 more parts on Mondays, next Monday and next Monday. And then actually we have a question here. They ask you to share the link of Equasia. Actually, I missed that part because I was busy letting people in. So this is the question that actually I found out here.
Yeah, you can write it in Google. It's Ecosia, and with every search, you can
Can you
help.
please spell it out for us?
Yeah, I have written in the chat box.
Okay,
Now,
great.
The reason I liked it is that for every search, you can help the income from the search goes to planting trees, which is very nice. And but Google doesn't do that. I mean, it's just a small act of. Of course, you can plant your trees in your own backyard. This is much better, but this is also something. So, and it's getting better and better. I mean, I didn't have any problem searching with Ecosia, and it was as effective for me as Google up to now that I'm using. Because when more people use it, it gets better and better. And social responsibility or environmental, let's say, awareness that it gives us, it's very nice. So there are other search engines, safe search engines you can use. So we do not need to always, use whatever is the most what is that? The most famous? Can I say? Yeah. Because sometimes they use the they use their power in a less than fair way. Let me stop at that, because if I go through whys and things, you have to talk more about that and support my point and so on. So you can search about the story of Google and privacy, and about the Street View that Google had, and some of the practices. Well, it is not an evil. It's a very good service, but there are some disadvantages. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Imani. Any other question about the content of what I've presented so far? If not, I think we are running out of time, and we have. I think I have to do the rest in a little bit more speed. Okay.
Yeah, actually, we have a question. Somebody asked, "What do you mean by condensing other people's words?"
Yeah, condensing is the same as summarizing. Condensing. How you summarize, you get the main point from them, which is also relevant to your own point. Okay, so not everything they said, only the most important ones, and only among the most important ones, only those that are most relevant to your own topic. That's condensing.
Dr. Fateh, apologies. Is it, okay, please correct me if I'm right. Can we say that the difference between academic writing and normal writing is the support that we give to the first sentence? It is not only the type of the support, but how much support we give to the topic sentence. Can we say that?
Yes, sure. This is one of the most important differences, and there are other differences that I've talked about during this slide. So, in terms of form, in terms of meaning, in terms of support, in terms of organization, and so on. There are many differences, but the most important, you hit the nail on the head. The most important is to give credit not only to your own, let's say, idea by giving support, but also give credit to other people's ideas by giving them references.
Exactly, because one of the problems is that many people are afraid if they give citations to other people, it means that their writing is not good quality. Can you please advise
Yeah,
them a little bit on that?
yeah. This is a common misconception. Uh, Either too much relying on other people's ideas, or relying on your own ideas too much would not be helpful. So a mixture of those in a balanced way, always balanced, would be great.
So citation actually makes our writing valid, but it needs to be balanced. Am I right?
That's right, yes. If, for example, some people write something, every paragraph has a citation at the end, and there is not a single sentence from themselves, this would be too much. But if you, for example, cite other people uh, about half of your writing or less than half of your writing, that would be okay. I mean, there is no limit, but the general idea about balance is that perhaps about up to half of your writing can be cited from other people.
Okay, so it means that we present our own ideas, but we support by relying on other people's citations.
Yeah,
Am I right?
that's right. That's right. It also depends on the genres of writing. I don't want to go through that one now because I don't have time. But just summarily, I mentioned that when you want to write a review, for example, you need to cite more. Huh? When you want to uh, write a position paper, you cite less. It depends on the type of writing, or whether it's persuasive, informative, or entertaining. It also varies a little bit according to the genre. But
Dr.
new
Fateh,
writing, yeah,
yes,
yes,
apologies. Yes, please go on.
yeah, just want to finish with this sentence that no writing can be uh, independent of other people's ideas, okay, and citations.
Yeah, Miss Nadia, I think she has a question. She raised her hand. Miss Nadia, you can use your microphone.
If you want to use your microphone, perhaps we do it at the end. Everybody's microphone can be turned on and so on. That would be best, because we are running out of time. Let me just finish this.
Okay.
If you agree. If you agree. If not, I mean, if there is an urgent question, it's okay. We can put a couple of minutes for that.
Actually, it is your call. It is your call if you want to continue or you want to stop here and answer people's questions.
I think it's best to move on now and
Okay.
finish the my slides, so that we can use the whole time at the end for doing that. So yeah, only 20 minutes have remained. And you can see transitions here after first. I talked about transitions, yeah? You can see the transitions used very good here. And also, you can see the other connecting words. Other connecting words can include synonyms. For example, here the method is replaced by technique to add variety and interest. Okay, and the use of one technique or another technique, another method. So these are other connecting words we can use. And the strategies for revising sentences here, when you want to revise sentences at the revision stage, not at the beginning stage. Okay, I emphasize again, not at the beginning stage. At the revision stage, you can pay attention to parallelism, consistent point of view, using more specific words, using more concise words, and vary your sentences. What is parallelism? Parallelism means balancing the item in the sentence and you make the sentence clearer. For example, if you want to actually list a few words, a few actions, if one of them has ing, the others should have ing. I mean, if you use gerund instead of infinitive, you keep consistency. You keep your writing consistent by using gerund up to the end. Up to the end. You suddenly do not shift to infinitive in the middle of the paragraph. For example, this one, to call is not parallel, and calling is parallel. And it also depends on the context. Sometimes you cannot use gerund, you use infinitive, sometimes just vice versa. But whatever you use it consistently. This is parallelism. And one example of parallelism, of course, there are other types. And the consistent point of view means as a writer, you have a point of view. For example, you use past tense as if something has finished, as if it doesn't have any effect on you anymore. Okay, past tense is not just past tense. No? It has a meaning further than something happened in the past. The meaning is that something doesn't have too much impact on you anymore. Okay, because it's past. For example, Jean punched down the reason door, then she jumped into the work table. If it is a cooking lesson, just imagine if it's a cooking lesson, it's better to change it to present sentence. Why? Because it gives the audience, a sense that they can do it themselves. Why? Because it's not something in the past. It's something that happens at the same time they are cooking in other kitchens in the world. I mean, other people in the world could do it, so I can do it. So I can be a cooking master. I mean, these are just over interpretations, but they have an impact on your mind. You know, these are perhaps subconscious impacts. So if we change it into John punches down the written word, and she, instead of them, she dumps it into the work table. This shows that, I mean, this action is ongoing, and you know, it can be repeated by someone else. And you can be a good cook too. You can also bake bread or I don't know, some other types of what is that? Confectionery. Yeah. So, but the important thing is that you do not change at the middle by changing the verb tense, and you say, oh, it doesn't, I mean, make any problem. The problem is about the effect. And about the specific words, the writer uses, for example, instead of using the boy, every time you, in a story, you can use synonyms, or you can use some livelier words or specific words. For example, instead of eating, you can say slurping. Slurping is a specific kind of eating. So if it applies, of course, if it applies to your writing, you can use. For example, in this slide, you can see the car. Instead of car, if you use rickety old Buick, I'm sure many people have seen Buick, or if you haven't seen this, Maybe you can ask your father, they have seen one. This was a American car, I don't know, and a big one and so on. So it's better to imagine a specific type of car, which is old one, which is rickety, than just the car and repeating the car, no? And so on. And using sense descriptions, you see here, for example, instead of saying the boy ate his milkshake while sitting on an old car. Instead of saying this, we can make it more lively, more specific by saying the Vince slurped his ice cold chocolate milkshake while sitting on the squeaking front seat of this rickety old Buick. Okay, so it shows that this little boy, what kind of chocolate milkshake? I mean, we can imagine from that writing, and we can even imagine that kind of car, even if we never experienced such a car, or we have experienced a lot of them. I don't know, but you can even imagine that kind of car, that there is a front seat which is very old, which is torn apart and it's squeaking, like some car companies in some countries produce squeaky seats from the very start. It may be very surprising, but it's not surprising for us. So let alone an old Buick, which so we can be very imaginative because we have seen all types of cars from different qualities. So you can imagine that. Even if you haven't seen that, always have seen good cars in Malaysia or elsewhere, then you can still imagine a squeaky front seat of an old, rickety old Buick, and it's more vivid for you, more specific for you than just a front seat or problematic seat of the old car. It's much better than writing, for example, general words. Okay? I think you have related to this because many people relate to cars these days. And about the wordiness. When we say concise, we mean avoiding the wordy. I think someone mentioned, one of the audience mentioned bombastic, or I don't know, another word for wordy. Wordy means too much word, too many words, for which is a sign of lazy and careless writing. It may not be, the writer may not be lazy or careless, but the reader assumes the writer is lazy or careless because they have used a lot of words to describe something which can be described in less words, in fewer words. Okay, you can describe in fewer words. For example, in this paper, I'm planning to describe the hobby that I enjoy of collecting old comic books. This is the sentence we come across in many student works. Okay, the revised form, the more concise form, and more effective form is that I enjoy collecting old comic books. That's it. That's it. We don't need in this paper. We don't need I am planning to describe. We don't need the hobby. Why? Because everyone knows collecting is a hobby. Everyone knows you are planning to. Everyone knows this is a paper you're writing. And this is the paper they are reading. Okay? Everyone knows that they're reading a paper. So you don't need to mention that and be wordy. So be ruthlessly pruning. According to a book I can tell you about writing effectively, they said, the writer said, you should be ruthless in pruning. Pruning means actually deleting unnecessary words. Okay? It may be difficult for a writer because the writer falls in love with their own writing, but anyway, this is a stage that you should sacrifice and vary your sentences. Effective writing is when it is varied and interesting, by adding a second complete thought or dependent thought or beginning with a word or placing an adjective. These are all adding variety. I can give you an example for each, which is better. The library was very quiet, I couldn't concentrate. Two separate simple sentences you can see here. Yeah? You can see only two separate sentences. Very simple. You can add although and after a comma, you join the second sentence to the first sentence. And this is a dependent thought and makes it more a complex, makes it into a complex sentence, and it removes the monotony. So it would not be monotonous anymore. You know monotonous? The library was very quiet, I couldn't concentrate. This is monotonous. But here in the revised form, it's not monotonous. You can say, although the library was very quiet, I couldn't concentrate. Okay? So it doesn't depend on my quality of voice. It depends on the short sentences. Many short sentences or more than one short sentence is not very good if you can combine it into one complex sentence. Please do. And the next one, editing and proofreading. Some ideas about that. After revising, you check for mistakes, and we talked about that, and you edit according to the conventions of written English, and check the edited draft. These are about the editing and proofreading. The only thing which is new here I want to explain is that the proofreading stage. Proofreading means give someone else. I mean, if you can find someone else who you can trust, who is your friend, okay, and they can proofread your writing, and you can ask, I mean, you can also give this service to them. That would be great. Before publishing your writing, it's very important to actually let someone else read it as a proofreader and find any mistakes, so you can solve the problems. And another one is placing adjectives or verbs in a series. You can see the truck bounced off in this example. The guardrail is sidewiped a tree and plunged into the ditch. You can imagine this scenario, like the accident scenario. The truck bounced off the guardrail, it sidewiped the tree, unfortunately, and then it plunged in the ditch. But we can make it better by combining the sentences, saying the truck bounced off the guardrail, sidewiped a tree, sorry, sidewiped a tree and plunged into the ditch. That's much better. And the summary of the four bases of effective writing are written here. The first one we can call unity. The second base we can call support. The third base we can call coherence, which means organization and connecting words. And finally, sentence skills. And the tips were written on screen. These are just final tips because we are at the age of computers and so on. I mean, at some point we have to, preferably early, we should type our writing. So we should save it frequently, make backup files and so on. Because I have heard a lot of students complaining about losing their file because they didn't have any backup. So you can keep different files. So these are some tips, very important ones. And if you don't do them, probably you lose some very important work, and you may not get into the mood of producing that again. So computers and writing process, again, pre-writing are some tips here. I think we can skip this in favor of questions. Yeah. So you can use the internet, but checking. Yes, these are the things I think you already know. And but this slide probably would be the last one. There are some websites or online databases or library subscription services we can use for free. For example, JSTOR, ERIC, Academic Search Premier, New York Times, Guardian, and so on, which you can use for reading very good articles and also searching for your topic and enriching your writing. And I think for finding an article, you may narrow down your results. You may already know this, how you narrow down your results by adding one word or deleting one word in the searching, whether it's Google or Ecosia or whatever. Usually by adding words, adding keywords, you can search specific words. And you can also bookmark those websites so in your favorite features, so you can come back to them later and find them. And finally, keep in mind that information you find online may not be reliable. This is very important because everyone can put information online. It may not be reliable, it may not be correct. You have to find valid websites, okay? And you can check the validity of the website. Some websites are like personal weblogs and may not have the same validity as a, let's say, bipartisan, or I don't know, let's say an academic website. So I gave you some examples, but there are more. So how can you understand the website is valid? You look at the site address, the author's credential, you can search the author, and the site's sponsor. It's very important because if the site sponsor is some business, they would only look at the profit for their business. For example, they say this, I don't know, product is the best, and while this is not scientific. So you have to look at those before checking, before using their information. It's easy, and with practice you can do that. So the up-to-date information and the content objective and the point, and whether their points are supported by evidence. You can also check that. So with that final note, I come to finish my presentation. And if there is any questions, I would open my, yes. I opened my camera for any questions, any final comments. We have only 2 minutes left.
Dr. Fatehpur, I would really like to thank you very much. Is it possible if you unshare your slide, can you unshare it so that actually we can have the, or you can just close the file?
Yeah, stop presenting.
Okay, yes, perfect. Okay, so thank you very much. Actually, there are a few questions, but if you allow me, I would like to make an announcement. Okay, please, everybody, in order to be aware of the next 2 sessions, I am going to give a link here, okay, that actually I am going to update it tonight. I haven't updated yet. So that is the first thing. Okay, so please allow me to find the link here. Okay, so I'm going to put the link here. So please go to this link to find about the other 2 sessions. Okay, and then this is the attendance list. Attendance link to get the certificate. So I am going to share it one last time. Okay, now the questions. So actually, a few people asked if you is it okay for you to share slides with the audience?
Sure, but I think it's not ready yet for sharing. I may do it in another occasion, or they may ask me if they're my students, or email me. Yeah.
Actually, something came to my mind, Dr. Fateh. If it's okay with you, then while we are sending them the certificate, then we can also send the slides plus the recording of this video. We can put all attached in the email, and then we can send them as one pack. So if it's okay with you.
Yeah, that would be good. We should
All right, perfect.
work on the admin, because your administration work would be very high, and if it's possible, that would be okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I will ask the faculty to do that. Okay, everyone. So the good news, okay, well, together with the certificate, we will also attach the recording of this video and also the slides that Dr. Fatehpour will later give us. Okay, thank you so much. And then here, I think Ms. Abu Talebi, if I'm not mistaken, she raised her hand. I think she had a question.
That's great. We have 55, and that's great, 55 audience. Well, if anyone wants to talk, it's time for microphone rather than writing. I mean, it would be great. Of course, I can see your messages in writing as well. But,
yeah, here we have Mr. Ali Noor ask, what is the difference between cognitive and metacognitive strategies in writing? Okay, that is one question.
Yeah, that was not exactly what I was going through in this actually session for undergraduates, but I can answer this by saying that cognitive are those, let's say, strategies that you know of and you are in your awareness, and there are usual ones, right? You can use, but the metacognitive is cognition about cognition. You know, when you are self-aware, when as a writer you are aware about what you're doing as a writer. So this is called metacognition. The only difference is that, but it's more for master's degree rather than, you know, do not confuse our students with the terms.
Yeah, and then we also have another question from Ms. Abu Talebi. She said, what is the difference between gist and paraphrasing? I mean, which one is effective writing in academic writing? Which one is common?
Sorry, once again, about the gist and
paraphrasing. She says, which one is effective? Which one is common? Which one is more effective? Which one is common?
Yeah. Well, I can say that the two most important academic skills are summarizing and paraphrasing. I mean, in every university in the world, if you know how to summarize and paraphrase and work on that, practice that, it would be a very, you know, big advantage for the writer. So by gist, if you mean summarizing, I think both of them are important, and using them together. You don't need to only paraphrase, only summarize. For the sake of practice, it's okay, but in reality, most writers in most situations use a little bit of summarizing, a little bit of paraphrasing. They're just tools, you know.
Okay, do we have other questions? I suggest that if you have further questions, you can just turn on the microphone and ask the question. That would be much better.
Yeah, if not writing, or actually you can write to me as well. And we have another session next week with Dr.
Hadidi.
Hadidi, yes.
Yes.
Dr. Hadidi from Tabriz University, and the week after next, Dr. Imani will present the final session, which would be great. And I hope everyone would be able to actually attend those meetings as well.
Dr. Fateh, since nobody has a question, I would like to ask this question. I know that you are an expert in academic writing and you have been teaching academic writing for years. I would like you to please tell us what is or what are the most common problems or mistakes that actually you have seen, you have observed among your undergraduate students.
Sorry, I was answering this. Actually, I, can, I cannot concentrate on two things once. Can you once again repeat the
Okay,
question?
I mean that. Okay, so you have been teaching academic writing for many years, and then you
Okay.
have been teaching a lot of students, a lot of undergraduate students. What are the common problems, mistakes in terms of academic writing that you have seen among the students? Because I think that they usually follow the same patterns, meaning that the same mistake
I,
can be seen, among them. So, what are some of them?
Yeah, some of the mistakes are related to the process. I mean, they want to do the whole process at once. Like, for example, first draft without pre-writing techniques. Yeah, to write the first draft, or when they think it's okay, it's good enough, they would not do the revising stage, editing stage, or proofreading stage. These are very important to have pre-writing and post-writing. Both of them are important. Pre-writing and post-writing, and they make our writing quality. I mean, or break it, make it or break it. Actually, and the one thing which is language specific is about, for example, Persian speakers. They would perhaps have some language specific, maybe in Malaysia, I don't know, Malay or Chinese, uh, let's say writers. They may use some of those structures or ways of writing in their own, which is common in their own language or in their previous education into the academic writing. While academic writing pretty much is following a standard all over the world about English and somehow has been standardized. And yeah, so some of them are culture specific, some of them are about the process.
Okay. And actually, I have sometimes seen the students writing is overcomplicated. I mean, it is really, really super complicated. They just
Yeah,
try to connect all the sentences and they think if it is more complicated, it is better.
yeah. Again, it comes back to the notion of audience. I mean, always looking at the audience. We are losing connections here. Sorry, but I think the time for this is also finished here. So yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, Dr. Fataypur, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. Dr. Fataypur, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. I thank you on my behalf and also the faculty. Okay, everyone, I wish you all a great time. And so with that, I will
It was
end the
intense.
session.